Welcome, everybody, to Pardon Our Blunders, the greatest chess show on the planet. We are
Just
so
chess,
pumped
not the
up.
greatest show?
The greatest show. The greatest show in the world. Grandmaster Ben Finegold with me here in the same room with him. You wouldn't know as FIDE Master Mike Klein, intrepid chess journalist. They are both in St. Louis getting ready for the world's strongest chess tournament in history. I wish I had something to like right then, like lightning crashed and Zeus came through and that kind of thing. But I don't. So let's get to what's hot, Ben. Round one. This is going to be intense. I hope you brought your A game.
A minus. Yeah. I figured that's enough to beat you, Danny.
Oh, really? Yeah.
A minus. Yeah. You're more of a B.
So since we've been keeping track of who wins these Pardon Our Blunders, it is now a competition between Ben and I. You're up 1-0, right? Didn't you win last time?
Yeah, didn't we do this twice? Yeah, anyway. Yeah.
I know, but
Mike knows. Mike knows
the score, so he'll probably already deduct points from me that I don't remember that. But anyway, remember, everybody, you can follow us on Twitter and get involved in the show. If you have an opinion, you can tweet at ChessComTV or at Daniel Rensch and at Ben Finegold. Let us know what you think. We will probably ignore most of your opinions once we're in the heat of battle.
Hey, we ignore each other's opinions, so that's
right.
Good.
So hey, don't take it personally, right? And 1 second, I have one other tech thing I am doing here right now.
I should sing and dance like Bender, but I'm sitting down. Bender is great.
All right.
Yeah, the round. All right, he's done with his.
Let's do. Oh wait, you wanted to have a story? No, we love Ben's stories.
No, I wanted to let people know in the chat that Mike Klein is being tortured today because he can hear me twice. Mm-hmm. He hears me on the broadcast, and me sitting next to him. So much for
waterboarding. Just have Ben Finegold talk twice in a room, and it's enough to make you go crazy. Okay, here we go. What's hot? First topic. We must talk about the most anticipated / unanticipated biggest letdown election in the history of elections. Didn't surprise you or I. We were both on record as saying Kasparov had no chance for different reasons, I think. But Kherson for life, Ben, with a question mark. If Kasparov cannot dismount Kherson, does this mean we are basically at his mercy in terms of the chess world as FIDE as it is until he decides to call it quits?
Well, the problem with Kasparov is he's sort of like the Howard Cosell of chess. Although he's the guy who can unseat Kherson. He has a lot of people who don't like him. So a lot of people like him, a lot of people don't like him. Obviously, the election they thought they were likely going to lose by a few votes. I just talked to Yasser Seirawan yesterday about the election. He was talking to people in the campaign, and they were just totally shocked at what actually happened. And most of the people think that South America just totally voted for Kherson, and they were surprised by that. Almost every country. One of the most surprising countries that voted for Kherson was Canada. And Canada just said, we don't like Kasparov. So, I mean, I do think I was actually very surprised he lost by such a big vote. And I do think it is Kherson for life. I don't think anybody could unseat him. Not because he's a great president, just because of the system that's in place.
Knowing that we're cheating here by squeezing 2 questions into one topic, I'm aware, fans out there, but first of all, it's our show. We can do what we want. Second of all, we have so many great topics. I had to find a way to fit this in. So before I give my opinion, what do you believe Kasparov's biggest campaign blunder was?
Well, Kasparov himself said something actually that was funny. He said his biggest blunder was he didn't run a negative campaign, which he was told to do, although I think almost his whole campaign was negative.
Right.
But anyway,
I had the same reaction.
It seemed like he just wrote it, yeah. To be honest with you, you're not going to like this answer, Danny. I don't think he made any blunders. I think it was just hopeless. So I think if he had to do it all over again, he would lose by the same margin no matter what he did.
Okay, but you're wrong. The biggest blunder he made was running to begin with.
Well, okay.
Okay, so there you go.
That.
No, my opinion on the first part, I think that under the current FIDE guidelines or infrastructure rules, whatever you want to call it, we are definitely dealing with a Kherson for life regime. If we had to elaborate a little further on Kasparov's blunder, I think he just assumed that. I think there's a disconnect, and what was clearly represented here, Ben, that you would probably agree with, is there's a very clear disconnect between the official dumbs of chess, as a word that Yasser would use. He's used that word with me. The official dumbs of chess, those running the organizations and the affiliates and all the federations and the actual playing community. And just because Magnus Carlsen and Hikaru Nakamura like Garry Kasparov doesn't really mean anything to these organizers, who very often honestly feel disrespected and underappreciated by the players. And so for Kherson to come to these guys and to consistently deliver, whether it's under the table backdoor money or agreements that help their organization achieve some sort of affiliate partnership with another organization via the way that they've done things forever, I think Kasparov just assumed that because he was the most popular guy amongst the professional players, and also I think you made a point when you said that I don't know that Kasparov was as popular amongst the professional players as he thinks he was. And he made a comment that in any other room he would have won. And, you know, I'm not saying that Kasparov is the classiest loser, but to me it's like, you know, it's a pretty bold statement to say when you lost not only by, you didn't lose by 10 votes. It's almost like he prepared that tweet before he knew the vote, Ben, because it's like, Kasparov, you lost by more than, you know, basically almost 50 votes. You know, it wasn't even close. And anyway, I just think I can understand Kasparov going on power plays against Putin because Putin is so far above him that it just, you know, Kasparov sort of can attach himself to the anti-Putin regime and gain publicity. But in this, I think it's a real black eye to show that Kasparov is not as big of a deal as maybe he thought he was. And so are we agreeing that it's Kherson for life? I guess we are. My biggest blunder is that he even ran. Your biggest blunder is he didn't make a blunder. So I think I win that argument then, because I actually. Well,
you would think you'd win the argument.
I would think, and I think I did. But let's move on.
Even though we're agreeing. So.
Let's move on to a lighter topic. Not that we couldn't talk about Kherson and Kasparov forever, because they're just so lovely to talk about. I was supposed to highlight this news article here and show the delegates' room as we talked about Kasparov. For those of you who have not read this article, if someone's willing to share the link to the breaking news article that our own Peter Dockers reported from Live in Tromsø, you really do yourself the favor and check it out, just because of the arguments that went back and forth. Nigel Short basically being told to shut up, and just like everything that went back and forth, it was just really awesome.
I love Nigel Short interviews, and especially the one after the vote, which I watched like twice because it was so funny.
Right.
I mean, he really says what he thinks.
Right. No, so we love that about Nigel. But anyway, if you haven't checked out this article, definitely do yourself the favor and do it. But let's move on to the next topic. Stockfish outlast Rybka Mura. News article by our own Mike Klein. But for those who look at the score and see 3-1, not to say that obviously Stockfish didn't win 3-1, and that was really even that surprising of a result if you asked most people heading into the match. But having watched the games live, both you and I, and having seen what Hikaru was able to do as far as his approach, were we impressed by Hikaru's play? And did it show us something about what humans might still be capable of? If you're taking the argument that Hikaru pushed two positions you think he might have been able to hold for a draw, certainly in Game 2, I definitely 100% believe that was true before he played Bishop H6, and we're going to look at that. Ben, what is your opinion on Hikaru's performance, and did he show something as far as what humans might be capable of in their approach against computers?
Yeah, I was much more impressed with Hikaru than I was with the Stockfish. One of the issues that Hikaru had, which I didn't see coming at all, I wonder if he did, was that he had to play, 10 to 11 hours of chess in one day, which obviously wasn't happening when the computers played humans in other matches. And I think that really was a detriment, especially in the last game. I don't believe he should have lost either game, and I think he had a pretty good anti-computer strategy. So I give the nod to Hikaru, and I think he did as well as he could have done, considering he just had to keep playing and playing and playing and playing with virtually no break, and that was very disadvantageous to him. But okay, it's an exhibition. It wasn't like it was for humanity or something.
Right.
But still, I was very impressed with Hikaru. I'm not sure what we're trying to prove. I mean, computers play better than humans do, and if the computers give odds, they're still the favorite. But okay, Hikaru, I thought, played well and did well and showed that, he's capable of drawing at least half the games if that's what he wants.
What I would argue, as far as why Nakamura impressed, was I think you and I and just about anybody with a head on their shoulders going into the match thought that the computers, of course, played better than humans. No one is arguing that anymore. But for the most part, there's still a debate, and I think Tyson talked about this, is not that computers will beat humans straight up, and even with odds they'll beat them, because tactically humans make more mistakes, right? Basically, the computers are perfect, and even with a disadvantage, there's no way a human can go without playing at least some slightly dubious moves that allow for tactical consequences. But I think the argument was, are there still positions that the computers misunderstand? And for most people, they felt like now Stockfish and Houdini and all these, Komodo and everything has evolved to the point where even positional chess is no longer out of their grasp as far as always choosing the best plan and the right approach. And I think what you and I elaborated on a lot in the middle game where Rybka had white, I'm sort of showing it right now against Hikaru's King's Indian, was just how that clearly was not true. And anybody that's watching the position now, even if you didn't see Ben and my tangents during the live broadcast, which you can check out, you can see that basically White spends the next 15 moves just shuffling pieces while still evaluating it as almost winning for him, as far as Stockfish's consideration of the position. So I think he proved that there are still opportunities to create positions where the computers don't know what they're doing and will grossly misevaluate it based on how we've built them to evaluate space and certain weaknesses as such. When a human can see that there really is no way to break through, a computer doesn't think like that. So I think it was a win for humanity in that sense, right?
Yeah. In fact, I have a friend here in St. Louis who's a 2000 player. Who's a computer programmer and who's actually like an admin on some of these computer sites and knows a lot more about computer chess than I do. He was actually impressed with Stockfish, and we had a long argument about that. Anyway, the point of the story is I talked to him a lot about these situations, like, how good is Stockfish, like if he had a FIDE rating, and my more important question is, the Stockfish or whatever computer program it is that exists in 10 or 20 years, if it plays Stockfish now, what's the result? How good is Stockfish right now? And in his opinion, if you just had a Stockfish 20 years from now that improved at the rate that it improves now, he thought that Stockfish would beat this one about 90%, which means, in his opinion, this computer's not playing close to perfect yet. It's just playing much better than humans.
Okay, well, it's one guy's opinion, right? And yeah. It's amazing to think of that possibility as computers evolve. But really, what we were arguing was, if there isn't some improvement to the algorithm and the actual code by the programmers, for example, on move 83, and everyone's looking at this position after queen to f2, we are officially, by the way, 5 moves away from the 50 move rule. Move 89 would have been the move with the 50 move rule, and we were watching this closely. Were you still with us, Ben?
No, I was playing my game.
So you had just left, and we were looking at this position, and not only were we just singing Hikaru's praises, and we thought that he had done well, I was just waiting for him to continue to sit on the position in the way that he had been with the rook or with the bishop. And here Hikaru played bishop h6, inviting the trade, which I think you could argue on a positional level that's the move that Hikaru would play against you or me as an opportunity to get rid of that bishop and maybe have a chance to push for a win. But I think it was a huge mistake because it changed the situation not only to allow the plan that ultimately Stockfish went for, which was this massive king walk over to the queen side, which isn't really possible in the current circumstance. But also, he didn't get to answer the question, which is what I wanted. I wanted to see if Stockfish on move 89 would avoid the draw by playing a horrible pawn move. The only horrible pawn moves available are h4 or g3 or g4. And I was just sitting here waiting what would happen, and I really wish Hikaru had just moved around because I was fascinated by what would have been the idea. Was Queen H4 a threat? I don't really think so. Anyway, Hikaru played Bishop H6, but what everyone can see here is it still wasn't really clear what Stockfish was doing for many, many moves. Until eventually this crazy king walk took place. And I think Hikaru thought that eventually he would see pawn moves like he did on move 105 with H4. But I don't think he anticipated that with the king walk there really was some pressure to now try to change the position. And he eventually played this horrible move F5, which was the losing move. What I will sing about Stockfish's praises, Ben, just knowing what computers were 10 years ago, is after F5 in the position, how quickly Stockfish realized that what he needed to do was just sacrifice the entire king side and just open up Black's king with this H5 move and just, I mean, computers now, like, there's like no hesitancy to do that, right? Hold on to any material, and the position was just impossible for Hikaru to hold. Anyway, I know we're spending a lot of time on this topic, but it was just fascinating, and we had over 3,000 viewers for a glimpse on Twitch, so people were really into this, and just okay. So what are we arguing? I guess we've lost track. Did Hikaru impress? The answer for us both is yes.
Yeah, we agree on this topic.
Did he prove what humans are capable of against engines? I would say yes.
Again, Hikaru does a lot of strange things when he plays chess, like. Most people, let's say Fabio Caruana, for example, got here 3 days early, and he's chilling out in St. Louis. He played some blitz chess at the club with just random members yesterday, and he's hanging out. And Hikaru likes to show up at the last second and put too much pressure on himself. He does that when he plays in Super GM tournaments, and he sort of did it here too. What other Super Grandmaster would play 10, 11, 12 hours with a computer all day, especially Stockfish? You just get exhausted. And I think that's one of the main reasons that he lost. He just needed to make the event 2 or 3 days and not in between an Olympiad and a 1,000-hour flight and then the Singfield Cup. And then just to show that God is angry, there was an earthquake early the next day. So it was, I mean, that was a tough situation for Hikaru. I thought he played extremely well considering the pressure he was under and how many hours of chess he had to play that day. If I play 11 hours of chess in one day, I'm going to make a blunder every move.
Right.
So I don't fault Hikaru at all for even playing F5 because, I mean, you're just exhausted. You just want the game to end.
Right. Well, all right. I guess we're in agreement so far. No blitz or bullet throwdowns. I know people are on the edge of their seats for us to battle. So, but let's move on to the Olympiad. Speaking of which, Hikaru Nakamura traveling from Tromsø to the West Coast of the United States for this match. But let's talk about what happened at the Olympiad. With let me find. There's a number of articles here. So China wins their first ever gold, but I would say just as impressive was what I highlighted in this topic, that none of the world powerhouses, as far as what the last 2 decades of chess have been, really for I would say the entire history of organized chess, finished in the top 3. I guess outside of Hungary, who you could argue has obviously been the home of some great chess talent with the Polgars and Leko and others, but I mean Russia, Armenia, Ukraine, France, Germany, Azerbaijan, every one of those teams failed to medal. So, how big of a victory was this for Asian chess, and did anybody have this top 3? Like anybody in the world?
No, this was totally crazy. I mean, okay, first of all, not only did China and India do better than expected, most of their players weren't there. I mean, India didn't have Anand, and they didn't have somebody else too. I don't know if it was Hari Krishna, Shashi Kiran, or somebody.
It was Hari Krishna.
Yeah, I mean that's ridiculous. And China didn't have Wang Hao. They didn't have Li Chao. They didn't have some Bu Zhangji. I mean, that's crazy. The two teams that didn't have their players show up came in first and third. Hungary has tied for first in the Olympiad before, and they had a good team in the 80s. But okay, I mean, you got Leko, who's a world-class player, and then you have a bunch of guys and girls who are like 2650 to 2730. They're not supposed to medal, and I was shocked at all 3. But I guess it's more shocking that India, and you can't even name the bottom players in India. You don't even know who they are. I mean, especially our viewers, they never even heard of them. And they're coming in third? That's crazy. I like the way you didn't mention in your top teams failed to medal. You didn't mention the USA, which is funny because they were ranked 5th to start.
Well, I almost listed them, but for some reason I felt like, and we're going to get to this in a later topic, that with Hikaru Nakamura's absence, I don't know. I never really considered them a favorite to medal for some reason.
I agree with that. I hate to agree with you so much.
Even though they were in the top 5, and I guess my main point was highlighting who the major powers have been. I think in many years past. I mean, from Russia and Ukraine and Armenia, and these have been the top 3 dogs, and I think that you could argue that France and Germany and Azerbaijan were all more people's picks to medal than the USA. Maybe not. I don't know, but I agree with you 100%. I think you said that Wang Hao wasn't there. Wang Hao was there. Did you say that? Maybe you didn't.
Am I thinking of Wang Yui? Which one wasn't there?
Wang Yui wasn't there, but Wang Hao was there.
And Wang Yui was there. Wang Hao wasn't there.
I'm pretty sure that.
I think I'm right. I
Okay.
need Mike to shake his head or
not.
We'll
We'll see. But Mike will correct us either way. But
that's right.
You could also argue that between Ding Li Ren and Yu
Yongyi.
Yeah, I mean, maybe those guys are the top players now, though. I mean, I wouldn't say that Bu Hongxi is amongst the top players anymore for China. But
right. But Danny, one of the worst chess books ever written, American Grandmaster by Joel Benjamin. Okay, okay. I don't know if I should say chess book. Maybe just one of the worst books ever written.
Right.
I mean, okay. He actually said one thing that made sense because if you read hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages, one thing will make sense. The one thing that made sense was
it's just math.
He said chess nowadays is for younger players, and you got to play fast when it's game of 90. And as I was reading that, I was like, Joel Benjamin never plays fast.
Right.
Like, he always plays as slow as possible.
I think that was just his excuse.
Right. This is actually correct, and I think this is why China and India did well in the Olympiad and the U.S. did not. The U.S. always puts the oldest team they can find.
Right.
They're like, Onishuk, are you old enough to play on the team?
Right.
Okay, you're barely
Onishuk,
old
you're
enough.
not. You're
Konsky, you're fine.
You're not quite over the hill yet. Let's go with. In fact, to drive that point home, obviously the player that did the best for the U.S. of course was the youngest player on the team, Sam Shanklin, who won the gold medal.
When we played in Brazil to qualify for the world team last year, just the youngest guys went, Lenderman and Shanklin and maybe Ray Robson. And that team won, even though I thought Cuba was going to win. But I mean, the young guys do well, and the older guys usually don't. Golko was an example of that.
Right.
Golko never had a good Olympiad. And I remember him saying to me once, like, I don't even know why I go to these. I always do badly. But the young guys do well in the Olympiad, and that's what the USCF has to try to do, is get some of the young guys there who are hungry and who can play fast and who are improving. That's the guy, and that's why China and India did so well.
Yeah, I think you make a great point, and that's sort of what I was leading to. Was you were just listing some of the players who weren't there, like Anand, and I would say Hari Krishna's in the younger crowd. He probably would have helped India, but I was just elaborating that maybe that part isn't true. Maybe the best players they could have fielded were there. Hungary is sort of the outlier in terms of that theory because they were obviously driving a team of veterans as well. But amazing performance. Obviously a huge victory, I would say, not only for Asian chess but for global chess, just showing that again the European and Eastern European superpowers are no longer always going to be the favorites at these major events, right? Chess is global. Okay, well, let's move on to round 2. My favorite round, where we get to argue true or false. True or false, Ben? Magnus Carlsen is not a team player. For those of you who do not know, not only did Magnus not play the last round, that's normal for the top seed to not play the last round when your team is sort of out of medal contention. But having had a sort of a rough tournament, a rough go of things, he left more than a day early. He left the day before. He left the second to last round day, and was not there to support his teammates, especially in his home country, where you wonder exactly what he was needing to run home to. I know he lives in Oslo, not Tromsø, but is that the right thing for Magnus to do? He caught some flack for it amongst the media, the chess media, more than the Norwegian media, as they pretty much don't believe he can do any wrong. But what do you think? Is Magnus Carlsen a team player?
Well, I wish there was something that was more than true. I mean, he's obviously not a team player. He doesn't care about the team in the least bit. and he didn't even play in previous Olympiads. He doesn't care about Norway team in any stretch of the imagination, and I'm not arguing that he should or shouldn't care about the team, but just the question itself: does he care about the team? Not at all. Okay. And as he said, he left, and he doesn't play in the Olympiad, and he only played in this Olympiad because it was in Norway. If this Olympiad was in any other country, he wasn't playing in it.
Wow. Okay.
So
well,
true. Which is 7 trues or 8 for him.
There's just not nearly enough disagreement amongst us today. Yeah, I was gonna flip the script on the argument and do one of those. The right answer is the trick answer, which is he doesn't have to be a team player, and anybody who thought he was a team player was just kidding themselves. It's great publicity to have the world's strongest player, the world champion, and the wonder kid that is Magnus Carlsen play in the Olympiad. I wonder if you could argue whether or not the NRK TV channel and all the Norway media coverage would have been there without Magnus Carlsen's presence. I mean, maybe they wouldn't have been, even if it was in Tromsø. But yeah, I think you're right. I don't think he's ever been a team player, and I think is the team. Well, the question was this: when they rolled the dice to put him on the top board, would the team be better with him, knowing that he may not necessarily be the best? You know, if you're talking about the team guy that brings everybody together, and I think the answer was no. Obviously, he lost a couple games on the top board. It happens sometimes when the best players in the world play like the guys that they almost never get exposed to, Ben, like the 2600 to 2650 range, right? These guys that are potentially really dangerous. Obviously, Magnus isn't going to have a full history against this guy, and also you could argue that some of those guys outside of the top 100 like that don't have the Magnus Carlsen intimidation factor because they haven't been beaten down by him so much. And I think that we saw that, you know, the team and the Norway team wasn't necessarily any better off with Magnus playing on the top board. And so again, we agree. Very little disagreement. I'm disappointed about it. I'm sure we're going to disagree soon. Let's move on.
I agree with that. Okay.
Judith Polgar retired. Probably the biggest news to come out of the Olympiad besides, I don't know, actually. Maybe it wasn't.
No,
the biggest.
I think we're gonna play a blitz game soon.
Okay, so Judith Polgar announces her retirement.
Yeah, that's what I would call non-news. What's the word for the opposite of news?
How can you say that? That is ridiculous.
Who cares?
Why also, do you say that?
She didn't play for a long time because she was having a kid and she was getting married, and she started playing like once a year instead of her normal. So I already considered her semi-retired anyway.
She maintained the highest ranking in the world for 25 years. Kasparov didn't do that. Nobody's ever done that.
No, she wasn't the highest ranked in the world. She's the highest ranked woman in the world.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Amongst her, I mean, so what's interesting, I will say this about Judith is for someone who never really competed amongst the women, it's an interesting perspective to claim, you know, the 25 years on top of the women, right? When she was obviously not competing in that division. But I don't think it's an unjust claim at all. And I think you're ridiculous to say that her retirement is not news.
Yeah, it's not anywhere near news.
Why would you say that? She's done more for chess.
It's just fluff.
You could argue that she's done more for chess as far as being a figure for young women playing chess, and if someone does something that's record breaking, like for 25 years, now I know that it's not exactly clear because men and women compete in chess together, and she obviously has been head over heels amongst all the other women, and so it wasn't really worth her time to compete. But tell me another sport where someone was ranked number 1 for 25 years. You can't. It doesn't exist.
I'd have to think for hours.
No, it doesn't exist. I've checked on it. Okay.
Lasker and Steinitz were pretty good. They were world champions for more than 25 years. Bam.
Whatever. That doesn't even count. Chess
27 and 28 years, if I remember correctly.
This is one of your Morphy arguments coming back. Back when, like, literally there were like 3 chess players in the world that knew. There were 3 chess players in the world that knew to control the center, and Morphy's opponents were blundering on move 3, but somehow he's considered to be great.
Yeah. Everybody thinks he's great, but you, Danny, you can...
Oh, no, I think he's great, and he was innovative. He was far ahead of his time. But to argue that he even belongs in the discussion is... By the way, you already lost that argument. You don't even get to bring that back up. If you remember last show, I beat you down and won that argument.
Danny, let me tell you something. The only thing the Polgars have contributed to chess more than Judith's chess is that the general public and some chess players don't know the difference between Susan and Judith Polgar. That's what they've contributed. Everybody's like, Susan Polgar, she's the greatest ever. I'm like, no, that's her sister.
Okay.
So
first of
that's
all,
what they've contributed is confusion.
first of all, I completely disagree with you. Judith Polgar broke the record for youngest grandmaster ever. Not youngest female grandmaster, youngest grandmaster ever. Susan Polgar was the first ever female grandmaster. First woman to earn the grandmaster title before her sister.
No,
that family, yeah, it is.
That's not true.
Yes, it is.
Pradishvili and Shubodinidze were grandmasters before she was.
I don't think so, actually. Not the titles weren't given then.
Looks
the
like I'm going to win this round.
No, I don't think so. I'm pretty sure Susan Polgar was
I know more about history. I'm older.
I don't think that the title was given. I'm pretty sure I read that. Okay, we'll see. Here's the thing, though. The Polgar family, like the what they did as far as raising the three prodigies, I think that people talk about when Judith Polgar's record will be broken by another woman chess player. Ho Yifan still isn't really that close, and I don't know that people appreciate what she was able to do as a woman competing amongst a male-dominant sport. And for her to maintain the level of play that she did for 25 years, it's a quarter of a century, I think it's a big deal. And I think she will be remembered as one of the most... Okay, how do you define great? If you're talking great as the highest rated ever, the answer is no. If you're talking great as far as influence and accomplishments and how she'll be remembered, then the answer is yes. She will be amongst the greatest chess players ever, considered to be, for those accomplishments. And if you don't agree, then, okay, I guess it's time that we just throw down now, isn't it?
Yeah, I totally disagree.
What do you want? You want blitz or bullet? Because I'll beat you down in both. It doesn't matter to me. You choose.
I mean, it doesn't matter. Let's play bullet so you have a chance. Because you're the young guy.
No, you choose bullet because you actually know that for some reason it's the only place you've been able to beat me, which I have no explanation as to why. I have no explanation as to why you've been able to hold your own.
I thought I beat him in blitz and lost in bullet. I'm confused. All right, whatever.
No, you've lost every blitz game, and you've held your own in bullet for some.
That doesn't sound like me.
I know it doesn't sound like anything.
When I'm in my apartment, I can hold my own. What I do in my own apartment's my business. All right.
All right.
Let's
here we go.
Get going here.
Let's do this.
What's going on around here?
Challenge me. I can't even deal with your disrespect of Polgar right now. Let me go find you so I can challenge you. You're probably not even open for challenges.
Everybody challenges me but you. I don't know, man. I got this weird situation here. I'm on the floor.
Send me a challenge here.
I don't know how to send people challenges. Let's see. Friends. Now you're my enemy. Let's see. Where's my enemies list? Danny Rensch. Challenge to a game. 1-0? Is that what we're playing?
I guess so.
All right. 1-0. There we go.
All right. This is going to be abusive. I'm going to abuse you right now.
Good. That's good.
It's funny because I just played this opening against somebody else who also thought it was okay to play this way.
Yeah. Isn't everything okay?
No, actually. Now,
go,
on.
Ben.
I have to,
What do you have to do?
I have to remember how I want to play this opening.
Are you using stockfish? Because that's not fair.
I don't use anything. Yeah. I don't use anything but my...
Okay.
But my bravado.
If you say so.
Okay, that was a blunder by me.
You blundered? Good. I like winning.
It doesn't matter. I'll still beat you.
Go, Ben. But I'm rooting for me. Doesn't that count for something?
It does.
Yeah, okay.
You're sacking the exchange, just like I knew you would.
Well, I love the pawn structure over there.
I love when you do that.
You love when I lie?
I love the way you lie.
Does Danny know what an X-ray is?
I used to.
Danny's coming to get me.
Somebody that I used to know taught me.
Somebody he used to know.
Here we go. This is when the pain starts to come down.
This is what it sounds like when the doves cry.
When you want to quote Prince songs, keep it to yourself and the rest of you that are still living in the 80s. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Don't bring it to the big.
That's not everybody.
The big show. All right.
That's not everybody.
The big show is when you're playing Blitz with me, and
all right.
Let's see. I have so many ways to win. How do I
want
to
Ben.
do it? Wait, can I sack the exchange? Can I sack the exchange back?
You can. You can.
I know, but I don't know that it's worthy of my time.
Yeah.
Get out of here. Get out of here. Get out of here. You have nothing. I know it's painful.
I got plenty of nothing.
I know it's painful, Ben.
I got plenty of nothing.
I know it's painful, but you're down. You're going down.
Uh-oh.
I know what you're doing. Don't you worry about it.
I hate
Don't
when
you
that
worry
happens.
about it, kitty cat. I'm all over you right now.
But I was worried.
You can't even compete with me on time, Ben.
I can compete a little.
See how I did that? See how I totally just cheated you with the pre-move, where I knew you were pre-moving? Okay, I win. I win again. Judith Polgar is a great chess player, and she will be considered amongst the greatest. I want to hear it from your lips.
Yeah, she's a great chess player.
No, she will be considered amongst the greatest for her accomplishments to chess.
She will?
No,
yeah,
you have to say it. That's part of the deal.
Of course. She's the greatest ever.
Okay, thank you. Moving on. Topic number 7.
Usually when people hang mate and 1 against me, I don't consider them the greatest ever, but all right. Continue.
All right, well, you know what? Nobody's perfect. Okay.
Exactly.
Now.
Man, that was slow. I wonder
True.
what's on my mouse.
Oh, wait, no, we're
What?
moving on. Moving on to the final round before the fan blunders sweet tweets. We start with a tweet of my own. Again, you can follow us on Twitter at Daniel Rensch, at Ben Finegold, at Chesscom TV if you want to be in touch with what really matters in your life. If you're not following us, then you're probably wandering through what we would call the wilderness, right? You're Siddhartha right now. Ben will guide you to.
That's a hell of a joke. A heller of a joke. All right, continue. Yeah.
Okay, sweet tweets. To start with one of my favorite, Magnus should submit and play in Sochi, however you want to say it, or what? For those of you who don't know the controversy surrounding, currently Magnus Carlsen has expressed interest to not only delay the World Championship match, but likely the rumors are that he doesn't want to play in Sochi and would rather FIDE look for a more Western European city or something to increase the prize fund. I think one of the biggest issues is that the prize fund really isn't that great. But Magnus Carlsen has been denied by Kyrgios at his request to delay the World Championship match and perhaps look for a new venue. What should he do if FIDE says no? And more importantly, what can FIDE do to him? He's Magnus Carlsen.
I'm confused. Normally, when there's an argument between a federation and a player, I back the player. But didn't he and Anand just sign a contract saying they'll play in Sochi and the prize fund, everything was set? Like, did something happen where he decided it wasn't good? How do you just sign a contract saying I'm going to play there, then I don't want to play there? Like, what?
You know why? Something? You know why? I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
Because he was promised by the rest of the world who was not as enlightened as you and I, that Kasparov was going to win the election, and that when Kasparov won, Kasparov would be finding not only a new venue, but new sponsorship. And what happened was Kyrgios not only won, but killed him, and now Magnus is having second thoughts, because he realizes that, first of all, we're in the Kyrgios regime from now until Kingdom Come. And second of all, to backtrack a little bit, I think you could argue that one of the main reasons that Kyrgios pushed Sochi before is that he wanted, remember there was the controversy surrounding whether or not Kyrgios could even find a venue, and it was one of these things that Kasparov was using against the Ilumzhinov regime, which was that he wasn't able to secure sponsorship, all the things that Kasparov said he could bring to the table in a different way. And so Ilumzhinov gets the Sochi venue and gets the world champions, the world champion to sign and all these things. But I think Magnus signed thinking that there was a good chance that Kasparov would win at the time. Because
that just sounds,
it sounds ridiculous to you because of how you see it, but I think there are a lot of people, even in my own team, and not to call anybody out, but like from the beginning, it was like, look, you guys, Kasparov has no chance to win this.
Yeah.
The reality is that we could argue why, and people can argue dirty politics to this and that, whatever, but the bottom line in the end is there was no chance for Kasparov to win, but not everybody understood that. And I think there's a pretty good chance that when Magnus Carlsen signed this contract, he never intended to play in Sochi. So I agree with you. He should play.
Fault.
Yeah, it is.
No,
it is his fault.
I think he should play, and I think he's going to play.
So the question is why, though? Do you think FIDE could take his title? Do you think FIDE could take his title if he doesn't play?
If he doesn't play, they probably will. Yeah.
Yeah, they'll give it back to Anand. I think so too.
Well, I don't know if they'll give it to Anand or they'll make Anand play somebody else. I heard it was Karyakin, but Danny, it seems like we skipped topic 5.
We did?
The Grand Prix cities discussion. But we can go back to that after topic 7, so that's okay.
Oh, you're right, we did. But you know what? It's not my fault.
Oh, as long as it's not your fault, that's good. Yeah. It must be my fault.
No, the same bug happened last time with the slideshow.
You were staring at my pretty face, and that's why you couldn't see the topic.
No. I'm showing you right now. When I go to the previous slide, it goes to 4. When I go to the next slide, it goes to 6. The program has skipped 5, and it did this last time. Remember, it skipped a topic.
Yeah, I remember we skipped a topic last time, too.
Okay, well, let's talk about it right here, because topic number 5 was, is the Grand Prix schedule... I can attempt to exit the slideshow right here and go to topic number 5. Here we go. Here it is. Does the Grand Prix announcement from FIDE, the schedule of Baku, Tashkent, Tehran, and Moskva, as I like to call it, is it with no major Western European cities or other global travel destinations? Is this proof of the bad shape that chess is in and of the future of the Kyrgyzstan regime being all these Eastern European and former Soviet state cities?
Well, I was shocked, and in fact, I talked about it yesterday with some of the GMs here that Tehran is one of the
right, and you can tell people why, because currently the U.S. citizens, well, let's say they have a very, very hard time getting visas to travel to the city. So you basically are eliminating.
They don't want to go there either. You know, Caruana said, I would play in the Grand Prix, but I'm not going to Iran. So if they make me go to Iran, I'm not playing in the Grand Prix. But I think a lot of players might feel like that.
Right.
Yeah, I don't understand. I don't understand anything. Okay, Moscow, they have chess in Moscow. The other 3 cities, I wouldn't put Grand Prix tournaments there. I don't know what it shows. I think it shows that, Kyrgyzstan wants to put chess in places that a lot of people would rather have chess somewhere else. And he just thinks that it's fine. A lot of people I know don't think it'll be in Iran. They think they just said that, but when push comes to shove, they're probably going to have to find an alternate site. So I guess we're going to find out in a few months. To me, that's just totally crazy. To me, that's just a very strange thing to do. I don't think it shows that chess is in bad shape. I just think it shows that the FIDE leadership has some unusual ideas about where chess tournaments should be. And this is actually normal. Like throughout the last 40, 50, 60 years, interzonals and world championship matches are always in places that I wouldn't put such tournaments.
Right.
So to me, it's just very strange. I would not put tournaments in India. In the 70s and 80s, I wouldn't have put those tournaments in Eastern Europe. And I wouldn't have put the World Championship in the Philippines where there's, the electricity is going out and there's typhoons. So I just wouldn't do these things, but that's the way FIDE has been operating forever. That's just what they do. But I don't agree with it, but that's business as usual.
I agree. I don't think it proves that chess is in bad shape. I think it's, if anything, it shows that FIDE's in bad shape, or I guess bad or good is a perspective depending on where you sit. But from our perspective, I think it shows that FIDE has done things forever. They have no intention of changing. And I don't think chess is in bad shape because on a global level, as we've seen, chess is growing. The popularity is growing. Chess.com would obviously have that perspective, and I think just seeing the level of performance you've seen from the non-traditional superpowers at tournaments like the Olympiad and other World Cups, I don't think chess is in bad shape, but I think FIDE is in a ridiculous shape that they're consistently choosing these locations. You're right. I mean, to even announce Tehran is and to ask these players to go to Iran. I mean, look what just happened to journalists. And I'm not trying to, but that didn't necessarily. That has anything to do with Iran. But people are afraid of traveling to the Middle East countries right now, and I think for good reason. And so it just doesn't really make a lot of sense. So let's use that as moving on to number 7, because in this discussion, I guess one thing you could argue is whether or not Magnus has the right. I mean, with FIDE consistently announcing venues, Ben, and then they change it whenever they want, very often it's this announce it before you have it and then change it later if you need to, just to get the word out that, oh, FIDE's doing fine, and then we'll change the location later. I mean, it's understandable that Magnus would maybe sometimes have second thoughts, but I think if he thinks that he's going to have some sort of power to make FIDE bend, he's got another thing coming. I don't think anybody's going to be able to make FIDE bend.
No, I agree, and I think he signed the contract, and he's trying to back out after the election. I mean, I wouldn't want to play in Sochi myself, and if I didn't want to play, I probably wouldn't. Now, a little inside information. I hate to beat you down like this, but this is the second time Magnus has done this because, unbeknownst to most people, Magnus's dad told me when they agreed to play in India, they were actually planning on not playing. So, which is a very strange thing to say to me. They went to India before the match to have a look-see, and they were going to decide then, like, yeah, we can't play here, and we'll have to make some other arrangements. And they said, but it was great, and we loved India, and the people were really nice. We just changed our minds and decided to play. So, I mean, he's like, yeah, this place is okay. We'll play here. Well, but they said originally they were thinking we're not going to play in India.
I think you definitely get points for that kind of inside story because I never had that conversation with Henrik. Have talked with him via email, but that's interesting. And that honestly, I have no reason to believe to not believe anything you say because I know you tell the full truth all the time. So I would say that if that's true, then this is groundbreaking stuff here for the chess.com and Twitch community because to me. That doesn't speak very highly of that. I guess it speaks highly of their opinion of Magnus and his clout. But I think, like others before him, they would be careful they should be careful to have the perspective that they can do things like that and get away with it with FIDE. We'll talk about that in an upcoming topic right now. But I think he will submit. I think he should submit because he signed the contract. That doesn't seem, if what your story is saying, that doesn't seem like a very good way to conduct yourself. But also,
contract and think about it later is a weird way of doing business.
Well, also, but again, I mean, given who they're dealing with, I think a lot of people would argue that why should they have any other perspective as far as integrity goes, given who they're dealing with? So I mean, we could go either way, but let's go to the next topic since it basically is all intertwined. I told you this was going to be the greatest show ever. Kasparov gives his opinion that FIDE is not the future of chess. What is he saying, and what does that mean for us, given Magnus Carlsen controversy, given Kasparov's history of the PCA, as well as his general perspective of how FIDE operates and what he can bring to the table if chess was not operating under their dominion? Is this the future? Is this the future of things to come? Is this a sign of things to come? What do you think of Kasparov's bold tweet here?
Yeah, I think that's just Kasparov hot air. I mean, obviously he's a sore loser. He's a sore winner. Here he got crushed, so he's not going to say congratulations to Kherson. You beat me fair and square. Go FIDE. That's not Kasparov's style. His style is, I lost, and this guy's terrible, and this is the worst thing that ever happened to chess, and. Nigel Short completely agrees with me. So, yeah, I don't
Nigel Short, the guy that I beat in 92, he agrees with me.
I don't think that Kasparov complaining about stuff I don't give it a lot of credence. He's going to complain about everything. If he doesn't win, if he's not involved, then that's just the way he is. And
I have to say,
I don't know what the future of chess is. We're going to have to see if they have these tournaments where I don't think they should be, and if as I read, I think it was Peter who wrote it. They had 6 Grand Prix tournaments. Now they have 4, and they seem to have gone to worse locations with less prize money. That doesn't really bode well for FIDE. So there's always a little truth to what Kasparov says, but I don't think it's all gloom and doom when the sky is falling.
Well, I have to backtrack for 1 second on the last topic. Are you sure that Carlsen has actually signed the contract for Sochi? I think I think he agreed to it verbally, but I think because I read something that he was I read a tweet just this morning that he is trying to delay the actual decision to sign the contract until post Singapore Cup. Anyway, somebody can check on that, but it might speak a little bit better of the Carlson camp and their dispute of the Sochi venue, given if they have not signed a contract. But okay,
I thought they both signed, but I'm not. I mean, if they didn't sign, that wouldn't surprise me either. But that was my interpretation of what I read.
Given the past experience and your conversation about the India venue, as well as kind of the perspective being whether they signed or not. Certainly publicly, it seemed to be agreed to. But then again, you never really know what's going on behind the scenes. Maybe FIDE announces that this is the venue and it's agreed to. I don't know that I ever heard an official announcement from the Carlson camp that was the case. So. I think there's a little more to this than you give credit to. I do believe in what you said about Kasparov's, how he feels about losing and how he normally acts in these cases, and I think that he certainly believes enough in himself and his ability to attract sponsorship to the game that he thinks he could probably pull it off. I mean, he tried it before, right? A new organization outside of FIDE, but the question is. Is it just empty words, sort of a parting shot that someday somebody will dismount FIDE if it's the last thing they do, or is there more to it? The future will tell, right? But I'm gonna guess that this is not the last we hear about a potentially new Kasparov attempt at non-FIDE sanctioned chess events. We'll say that.
Yeah, that sounds like how Kasparov rolls. So, yeah, I agree with that. We haven't seen the last of Kasparov yet.
We haven't seen the last of Kasparov yet.
No.
Okay, so let's talk about a lighter topic. And Hikaru, I was chatting with Hikaru live on Skype when this actually happened.
Is there a prize for name dropping? Because we're both going to win.
I was, and he was really upset about this, and he was not happy that. He obviously knew that the potential backlash, I think, and for those of you, I can't have the whole conversation here on Twitter, but if you want to look it up, you'll see there was a lot of replies and a lot of back and forth with some people attacking Hikaru, and it was kind of a mess that day. But what do we think about this? Does he have a point that? For FIDE, again, it's like, we had Tromsø, and maybe now we have future locations where there may not always be the best plane flights flying there, right? Is he in the wrong for not really making his schedule work, or is there some truth to what he's saying that, maybe they need to find a better venue, bigger cities, or maybe the government, if they feel so strongly about bringing the Olympiad to their city, can work on increasing the number of flights? What do you think?
Well, let me argue with myself here.
Okay. I love when you do that.
That's the kind of show this is.
Right.
In my opinion, in general, Hikaru's right. The sites for FIDE events are not the best. And this is actually typical. Before St. Louis took over the U.S. Championship, the USCF put the U.S. Championship in some of the strangest places in the country with no media.
You mean you didn't like Oklahoma?
Yeah, no, you know what I mean. Not just Oklahoma. I mean, that's just the history of the USCF. Is the U.S. Championship has to be somewhere? Okay, that's a city. Let's put it there. Now,
right.
Now FIDE does that also. Okay, now to disagree with Hikaru. Okay, when I go to a chess tournament and one person complains, I thought the round was at 10 a.m. and everybody else in the room knows it was at 9:30 except that one person. Okay. I don't give that guy a lot of credence when 150 people knew when the round was and the one guy didn't. He complains about it.
Right.
Okay, that just means that guy's in the wrong. So if everybody gets to the Olympiad on time and one person gets there 2 days late, I'm not going to blame the city and the country and FIDE and the air schedule. I mean, there's only one person to blame about that.
Well, I think Hikaru's. I think he was frustrated, obviously, but. Okay, I'll say two things. One, I agree with you that Hikaru's right on a general level about how the USCF and FIDE have picked events. This is, a history of chess. And two, I agree with you that ultimately, of course, even Hikaru, I think, would admit that ultimately the responsibility has to stand with you if you didn't make it happen and other people did. But to argue 2 points real quick. One, it's more than just FIDE picking bad locations. There's very little effort made to to understand the travel schedule of a professional player. It's not like these guys are literally sitting around at home for weeks before one event and then sitting at home for weeks after the event. The chess world has so many things going on now to anticipate, to make a little more of an effort for guys that are playing in major events right before a tournament and then right after. You might make more of an effort to get them into bigger cities. So it's even more of a reason why they should be in locations with easier travel logistics. But the other thing I would say is this. The reality of what happened really was about the weather. I mean, that is true, and it actually really was a more than 12-hour delay. It was this 18-hour delay, and it was pretty extensive if you consider that this wasn't like your normal. This wasn't your normal, like, hey, guess what? I scheduled 3 connecting flights to save $300, and I have to arrive in Chicago at 2:30, and my flight leaves at 3. And then you get screwed up by the connection, and you blame the universe. This wasn't that scenario, Ben, where I've seen people do that, where, like, in order to save $200, $300, they're scheduling connecting flights that are within an hour. If you do that, very often you deserve to get screwed up.
That's always a bad idea. But more
Right.
importantly, Hikaru in general tries to get to tournaments that are thousands and thousands of miles away. He usually does it like the day of or the day before the event. Other top players don't do that. If he had gotten there 3 days early, which is what he should have done, because he's coming from like an 8-hour time zone away, so he can acclimatize to the tournament.
Right.
Even if he was a day or two late, he would still get there on time. But he's always doing things at the last second. And so, again, I blame – that's just what he does. He doesn't like to show up at a tournament days before the event, which I think is really good for your sleep schedule and for playing well in the tournament. That's just not what he does.
Okay.
So,
you could argue it's
going to be bad.
No, right. I mean, I think his approach and whatever, for whatever reasons, I mean, he'll have his own personal reasons why. I just wanted to point out that it wasn't like a misconnection because of complete neglect or just, ridiculous behavior. It was a real, full day weather delay. And you're right. I think 2-3 days in advance is probably the way that the majority of the strong players there planned their travel schedule, and so it's hard to argue with that. I agree. So I would say that ultimately I agree with you. The responsibility has to fall on Hikaru, but I also think that there was a lot of other things at play too. So, okay, interesting. Number 10, fan blunders. This was mainly I chose this one. If you aren't a member of the Chess.com TV group, somebody can share a link to that real quick. You can join the Chess TV group, and if someone is willing to share a link to the fan blunders forum, I would really, really appreciate that. You can give your topics for Ben and I. There are really a ton of good topics, and we will be going back through them and picking our favorites throughout the show. But this one was just really funny because it reminded me of a really funny story, and I just knew that you would probably have some good ones in the bag too. So we'll see whose story is better. But this Dill's Gambit Live member posts, I once had a game where my opponent came to the board with 7-Eleven nachos and was eating them in front of me throughout most of the game. What is your opinion about eating at the board and any good stories? So you go first.
Well, again, Joel Benjamin once every 3 or 4 years is correct. and he we talked about this before many years ago. You shouldn't eat at the board. I mean, chessboard is for playing chess, not for having dinner. If your opponent's eating at the board, I would ask them to stop, and they won't, of course. And then I would go to the arbiter director, and the director would make them stop.
Right.
I mean, no good director would let the other person annoy you by eating food at the chessboard and making noise, and that's just, you shouldn't do that. That's just annoying the opponent, and you're supposed to be playing chess, not having, Sunday dinner. Eating at the board is just a terrible thing, and it shouldn't be allowed. And probably FIDE or the USCF should make a rule that specifically it's not allowed to just eat a lot of food at the board, although how much is a lot is not clear.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I don't know if you're hungry or trying to disturb your opponent, but eating at the chessboard isn't something you should do. You should be drinking water, which is, a very reasonable thing to do, not smelling up the board and making a mess. And I know people who do that. I do have stories, but it's
right.
It's not only disgusting, it's noisy. You shouldn't be eating at the board.
Well, and it's best when. Yeah, so we both totally agree there. And if you're a player out there who feels that you were a victim to somebody eating and you actually lost because of it, well, ultimately that's your own fault. Because, as Ben said, if you ask them to stop and they don't, you can go ask the tournament director, and they will always ask the player to leave the board and to finish their meal before they come back, or to eat away from the board. So this is a pretty funny Nachos story. But yeah, ultimately just advice if you're somebody out there who actually plays in tournaments, just don't let your opponent do it if it distracts you. But one of the best stories of this is the legendary himself, Conrad Holt, wearing a chess.com shirt there, one of the pictures I brought up. Conrad once at the Metropolitan International, where his legend just grew from this. This was so hilarious. He was eating at the board against none other than the top seed in the tournament, Mickey Adams. At the time, Conrad was an international master, okay, and an up-and-coming international master. But not only did he eat at the board, Ben, but he had a one of those sort of plastic takeout things from the hotel, right, with the ham sandwich in it. He opened the ham sandwich so that everybody in the room can hear this like loud plastic like snapping open, right? And then he proceeded to pick everything off of the sandwich besides the actual ham and the cheese. So the lettuce and the tomatoes and the onions, like everything that was on the ham sandwich was picked off, put in the plastic, and then he ate the ham sandwich. And like the whole time, Mickey Adams was literally just staring at him. And Conrad was just completely oblivious to the fact that like everybody in the room had come over to look at him eat this ham sandwich. So that was one of the best stories of a good player, completely oblivious. Conrad can live in his own world sometimes. Let's be honest.
I have another Conrad Holt story that is not very similar, but it's a food story. At the U.S. Championship last year, Conrad Holt was actually fined because you have to show up on time, and they don't forfeit you, but they'll fine you if you keep showing up late. And he kept showing up late because he wanted to get lunch at this sandwich shop, but they opened like right before the round. The round was at 12:30, and they opened at 12. So he would get there when they opened and eat, then come to the round. He's always like 5 or 10 minutes late.
Was it a ham sandwich?
So, I assume so.
He
wasn't eating it at the board. He was eating it there, but he showed up late to every round because he had to go to this place to get a sandwich, and they would open late. So
that's hilarious.
Yeah, he does live in his own world. It's for sure. Everybody knows that.
All right, quickly to move on. Blunder of the month. Ben didn't give me his in advance, so I gave the blunder to Ben himself for picking someone besides Magnus Carlsen.
But didn't I win a blitz game to prove that I was right? How could I get the blunder of the month for that?
Well, exactly. Well, that was a different show. Now I get to.
Okay.
I mean, now I get to say that it's a blunder for you to pick Vachier Lagrave to win the Singapore Cup.
It's a potential blunder of the month. It's potential.
Will someone besides Magnus Carlsen, if you had to bet in Vegas on the field or Tiger Woods or the field or Magnus Carlsen, I wonder what would be the bet. But I also gave another blunder to the Tromsø organizers, not because I want to highlight any sort of immature or potty humor, but lots of feedback from people about the Tromsø Olympiad, from the bathroom situation to the lack of hotel rooms available for not only players but also journalists. Then, of course, we have this lack of flights as far as the actual location itself. So I gave it to the Tromsø/FIDE organizers as well as Ben. I get to have 2 blunders this month. I can just do things like that. It's awesome.
I'm going to give the blunder of the month to the Russian chess team in the Olympiad for not doing well. That's their blunder of the month.
Okay. All right, good for you. So
that's the blunder every 2 years.
You're sticking with your Vachier Lagrave pick, right?
MVL all the way, over the field.
All right, man. Well, now we are moving on, and quickly, because Ben and Mike have to go, so we bring on the legendary Mike Klein himself, who is the man who gets to decide who won today's show. Everybody is on the edge of their seat. So
Mike's gonna get all comfy over
here. We're just gonna bring Mike on next to Ben, and in the future we will find a way to make this work.
All right, no, I'm sneaking in.
Actually,
look at. So I don't know if Mike can see the special graphic we made for him, but I thought that was pretty good for Mike. I mean, when I think of Mike, I literally think of a massive head bouncing on a skinny green pond. So that is normally what I think of, and
that's how I feel my life is sometimes.
All right. All right, Mike, so go ahead. Give us a recap. What happened today?
All right, here we go. Question 1, Kyrson for life. I call that a push. You guys had the same arguments. I wanted to give it to Finegold for calling out Canada, but I feel like they get enough abuse. So we'll call that a push. Question 2, whether or not Rib Kimura impressed. Gave this one to Danny. I thought he voiced his argument a little bit better. And I will say I've got some inside knowledge here. I actually had a flight to St. Louis with MVL yesterday, and he mentioned that he thought bishop h6 was forced.
Oh, really?
I just my graphic come up. Because he thought this plan of queen h4, king h1, rook g1, g4 was a bit strong. So anyway, that's just his little viewpoint. He was following the match, too. Really nice guy. I was glad I got a chance to talk with him. So Danny got the point there. Question 3, the top 3 at the Olympiad. I had to give it to Ben. He had much better analysis of the players. He better knowledge of the lineups, and also he was right. Wang Yui played, Wang Hao did not.
Okay.
You got to give it to him for that. Wang Yui playing the next death match, by the way, against Alex Lunderman. Nobody mentioned that. Topic 4, whether or not Magnus was a team player. We're actually going to come back to this one. I'll tell you why in a minute. Question 5, the Grand Prix cities. I like Danny's argument a little bit better because why? Because I think I might have to get sent to Baku in 2016, and I'm hoping for some hazard pay. So I got to give it to the boss man on that one. Question 6 was interesting because originally I gave it to Danny for being more supportive, and I don't want the women out there in the chess.com community to hate me. This was about Judith Polgar. But then I was going to give it to Ben. He had better knowledge of the Grandmaster title. In fact, Nona Gaprindashvili was the first woman to get the Grandmaster title in 1978.
What?
However, it was a special award. The first woman to actually win the title in normal course of over-the-board play was Susan Polgar in 1991.
That's what I said. I said that Susan Polgar was the first to win the title. Well, I guess I didn't clarify that, but I was right, Ben. Susan Polgar was the first Grandmaster, the first female Grandmaster, earned the title.
But as Jesse Jackson says in 1980 Saturday Night Live, the point is moot because of the bullet throwdown was won by Danny anyway. So Danny got the point there. Question 7 was about the World Championship venue. I took Ben on this one because, although we're not so sure whether or not Magnus signed a contract, and it looks like he hasn't, Danny, you actually conceded the point. After his inside story about Henrik Carlsen. So, Danny, you shot yourself in the foot there. Question 8, the future of chess is not FIDE. We're just going to call that one a push. Question 9, about Hikaru's lack of flights to Tromsø. I gave it to Danny because Ben had an unusual bout of indecisiveness. He actually sort of contradicted himself. So, Ben, you just got to pick your viewpoint and go with it. So question 10, about eating at the board. I gave it to Ben for his sage nutritional advice about drinking water. So the score is actually tied 4-4. And you know what that means? Question 4 was all about Magnus being a team player. So we have a tiebreaker question live on Pardon Our Blunders. The tiebreaker question is whoever can guess the number of losses Magnus Carlsen has suffered at the Olympiad in his career. Whoever's closer. So, Danny, we'll go with you first. How many losses has Magnus now suffered in his entire career at the Olympiad?
5.
And
wow, I was going to say 5.
Okay, well, it's basically an over-under. Pick 4 or 6.
Under.
Under is wrong. The final answer was 7, meaning Danny is closer. Danny is the month. And he also takes the lifetime lead. He's now up 2-1 in the Blunderhead competition. There you have it, folks.
Where?
Ben, as usual, you were a gentleman and a scholar, a worthy opponent. Mike, your Blunderhead segment, this is great. I love it. I can't even say that. I feel like I just wait for you to come on and tell us all the things that we don't know. So that's awesome. I'm right about. I knew I was right about the Susan Polgar thing with your Guganishvili, reference. No.
Man, she's the. You got to know Gaprindashvili.
You mean Gaprindashvili?
Okay, I Gaprindashvili. I knew that. I just was trying to.
I thought I had it as Gaprindashvili.
No, but Shibboleth is somebody else.
Shibboleth needs a.
See, Mike can't take the win away from me now, so I'm allowed to butcher names. It's already over.
Okay.
Interesting fact we revealed on chess.com a few weeks ago. No woman who has ever achieved the Grandmaster title has ever died. So we have found the fountain of youth, ladies.
Wow.
We have found the fountain. 30 for 30, all still with us.
That's amazing, actually.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you for joining us. We had a great time. Mike and Ben are about to run out the door to an autograph signing in St. Louis. So if you are not there, you will not be getting autographs from the best chess players in the world, as well as Ben and Mike. I think Ben and Mike should give some autographs, too. You guys are awesome. Have a great time in St. Louis. I'll see you in more than a week. Everybody else, thank you for joining us. And any other final words, guys?
Bonne chance et bonne nuit.
Bien sûr, mon cheval. Au revoir, à tout à l'heure.
Ditto.
Go MVL.
All right, bye, guys.
Bye.